All right. Hello. This is Laser, Zach Laser Sloth. Today is currently the 15th of, I think it's June. And, so I kind of wanted to make a video, of me, the process of me making a track, specifically a Cyber World track. So, this is for off season 3, right? Or off season 3. And, I spoke with Crafties, and we're probably not going to do another Cyber World track because people don't really care about it. And it's not very trendy, so it's not going to be good clickbait. Um, so yeah, it's probably not gonna be Cyber World. It's gonna be something else. But basically, it's gonna function like a Cyber World. It's gonna have yeah, we'll talk about that. So yeah, let's just I guess get right into it. The main things or first, what I like to do is oh wow, I like to write down what kind of gimmicks are gonna be, right. This is my style of building, right. I like gimmicks, right. I deal a lot with gimmicks. All my tracks, or at least all my good tracks have gimmicks. Um, so I've kind of already had a plan. If you didn't know, I'm essentially like making three main tracks for season 3, being Cosmic Ocean. What used to be fourth layer, we still don't know what that's gonna be, but that's gonna change it to something. It's like the 1 minute 30 track with a loop gimmick. And then there's gonna be the Cyber World 3 thing. And so basically I split the gimmicks apart. Because I have like a document of gimmicks, right? So TLDR, I have two gimmicks I want to use for this track, right? First one obviously being the Cyber World gimmick. This is the split route. Essentially a short explanation, right? You're coming in, so cars or boats going this way. You have two routes, and then they eventually come back. Um, right, and then the boats go this way. Boats go this way. Boats go this way. Essentially, this route is going to have more speed than people going this route. But if you go this route, you reach here earlier, and you could block people going this way, right? So if I'm P2, right, um, P1 goes this way, I go this way, right? Or I go this. Yeah. I go. Okay, well, whatever. I go this way, right? I'm P2. P1 goes this way. P1 is going to be like right here by the time I'm right here, but then like down over this way, it's gonna be like I'm over here and he's over here. He has so much more speed, right? Um, thanks. So he's gonna if I bump him, then he'll end up behind me, right? He'll be like over here, even like over here by the time I'm over here, because he just got destroyed, right, on a straightaway. Um, yeah. So that's the main idea. I've had this idea, since like for a few years now. I tried to implement it for Cyberworld 1, but the timing wasn't that good because I didn't get the numbers correct. There wasn't like timing system was not a thing back then, so I had to use my own command blocks. I didn't really lab it that much, or compared to today standards of labbing, at least for me. So I didn't actually have good numbers, and I didn't really like spend enough time tuning, like fine tuning the track to make sure it was the numbers I want. So we have to write down the numbers. Like numbers being So numbers being like how much time do we want them to lose if they don't if P2 misses the block, right? So like P1 goes the fast route, P2 goes the slow route, and then P2 misses the block. How much time do they lose? We want to know how far apart P1 and P2 can be, so that P2 ends up in front of P1 at the intersection, right? Because like, let's say this would be 1 second. If he's past 1 second, then he will reach the intersection like after P1 goes through, right? So you need to figure out how big you want this number to be, and that's hard. I guess we should start writing these down. Time lost by P2, and I say P2 arbitrarily. Basically, it's just like whenever I think about these scenarios, I think about only P1 and P2, just because like it's easier instead of saying like P5 and P6, right? Like technically it's not correct, but like P1 and P2, P1 being in front of P2, P2 trying to block P1 by going the slow route, right? Then we also have to do time gap between P1 and P2. Loud time gap. Yep. this software is nice for drawing, because like this is a tablet. If you didn't know, I'm using a tablet right now, Surface Pro. But like the text is terrible. Like look at this. I can't like format it, and I can't change the. I can only bold everything. It's terrible. Yeah, and then I mean those are the main two things I believe. Other things you want to keep in mind. Cyberworld 2. The problem with Cyberworld 2 is that yeah, the main problem with it is that sorry. The main problem with it is that the split routes take up so much time, right? You spend so long on the split routes. Like the track is 50 seconds long, and you spend like 25 seconds on the split routes, or like 20 seconds on the split routes, which is a lot of time, right? They are big split routes. So like if possible, I'm gonna want to try to lower that number down to maybe like 15, or just like yeah. So like if you have essentially we're doing like super basic math, 20 seconds. That's like the amount of time you're on the split route. Over 50 seconds, the zap time is like 2 or 5, right? I'm gonna want to lower that down to like 15. I'm gonna make the track 60 seconds long, and that's a good amount better, right? So this is gonna be like 40%. That's 25%, right? So it's 15% reduction. That's what you kind of want to do right here. And yeah, so like because Fantasy, I'm not entirely sure how like much he thinks about track making and stuff, and how much I should value his opinion. But he did bring up a good problem with like you don't have enough track, or you don't have that much track to like make up for the loop. Like you have like 3 turns outside of or not loop, the gimmick, right? You do the gimmick, but there's not much else space, so it's pretty heavily centered around the gimmick the track is. Which, to be fair, I made the track, both Cyberworld 1 and Cyberworld 2, to be heavily centered around the gimmick, right? You know, if you have a lower lap time, that means you have to do more laps per race, right? Because you want a 20-minute or 30-minute race, right? So you have to do more laps, which means you have to use the gimmick more and more, right? So like that's kind of what I wanted, but I'm gonna go ahead and move away from that now. The goal, I guess we can make a goal thing. Goals. 60-second lap time, right? That's just like a kind of a attribute. I don't know, like it's just a player density thing, right? So that they have more time to breathe, especially outside of the split routes. Yeah, so limit split route length. And so, and maybe also try to limit back straight length, right? Because like in Cyberworld 2, that back straight is super fucking long, which, to be fair, I made it super long because you need that space to like have the fast route be faster, because the whole gimmick, right, like the 2 routes, you're gonna have a lot less speed, right? You need, so basically the advantage of going the fast route, right, going this way, is that you have a lot more speed right here than the people going this way, right? So you need to have a big straightaway, so like your higher speed means more, right? So like you're gonna, if there was a turn like right here, then you're already braking right here, and like those speed doesn't matter as much, right? So like it's not well balanced, right? You can see that in Cyberworld 1, that was a big issue, like how small that straightaway is. But then if you have an enormous straight, right, then people on the slow route have to like build up enough speed, right? And then at that point you're like super far past because you're already super fast. Yeah. So that's why I have a super big straight. It's like a freaking sniper rifle barrel. That's what I think of it as. But if possible, I'm gonna want to try to make it like not as long. Because it's just, I mean, I have talked about in like FC1 chat, like slow tempo tracks, like super long straights everywhere, is not necessarily, we shouldn't just think of that as inherently a bad thing, because having different styles of tracks enables like different play styles, right? Like you have the more fast paced, I don't think about game plan much, I'm just fucking driving, fast paced. I have a fast paced brain, I can think faster, I can react more, right? They're gonna benefit more from like high tempo, lower speed tracks where like all sorts of shenanigans can happen, maybe like TGP, I guess. well, maybe not, no, CGP is bad. Like the idea behind CGP of like turn, and it's very, like, I guess not very narrow. It doesn't have to be very narrow. It's just high tempo, right? And low speed. But then you want to have the opposite side of the coin, right? Where you have the analytical people, right? The people who want time to think, people like me or other people. And having these enormous straights gives them a second to like take a breath and look at the sidebar and like be like, okay, pit delta is 31 seconds. So we're gonna want, so I'm ahead by 1.5 seconds, and I should keep up this pace. Maybe I should risk taking the good line here because I'm behind by 0.2 seconds, and I don't want them to undercut me, right, etc. We want to give them time, or like we can give them time. So having a large back straight isn't necessarily bad, but it's not fun to time trial. I will say that it's not fun to time trial. No matter what kind of like analytical or fast paced you are, I'm pretty sure it's not fun to time trial that. And like it's just something that's nagging at me, right? Like Cyber World 2 is nowhere near perfect, and like that's one of like the imperfections. Another one's like just how long the split routes are. So like the main two though are these two right here. It's just that if miss block. So like if you miss the block, how much time do you lose, and how far away P2 can be from P1 to get the block. What's neat about mementos is that the time gap, is actually like weirdly different, right? So like if you have P1 and P2, right, the time gap in Cyberworld 2 is like you're allowed to be within 1.5 seconds, but then like for mementos, it's like it actually only really works for like this amount of time, right? Like, so this is like 0 to 1.5 seconds. It's actually something like 2.5 to like 1. And then this range does not work because they have so much time to react to you falling down that that is like they can just avoid it, right? Like you can use this time gap, but like it's not really gonna work. This is more reliable, right? Because like they have time to react to you, right? Which is interesting because like mementos is different because like you can strike from further behind, but like not if you're too close, which is kind of interesting. Or like that's kind of how I analyzed it in the past. Of course, mementos was kind of fucked in terms of their for all season 2. Like the top route was actually like almost as fast as the bottom route, essentially as fast, and it was kind of fucked. But that's something I noted, and I thought it was pretty cool. But so like the problem with boat racing is like, okay, no, not the problem, but like a problem with boat racing is like the boat delay, like the lightning rod, so here's the lightning rod, and then like here's the boat or the hologram or like the ghost or whatever, right? P2 has to be behind here, so it's not just like in real life where like you can just have like a car right here, right? And then like the gap is like 0.1 seconds, like in F1. You can't have that, right? Or you can in boat racing, but like generally you're probably going to be behind their ghost or their boat, right? That's just kind of how it's generally going to be when you're following someone. So, and that's kind of what we want to aim for. So I'm pretty sure the gap actually depends on either the players, like so this gap right here, this one, either depends on this guy's ping or this guy's ping. Like if this guy's ping is enormous, then this gap is like huge, right? It's either that or this guy, or maybe it's a mix of both. I'm not entirely sure. Which might this guy's ping, the hypothesis that depends on this guy's ping. Like it depends on whoever's watching it, right? Like if I'm a spectator, right? If my ping is like 300 milliseconds, then it could be like this big. But if it's like 100, it could be like this big, right? So then like that could explain why sometimes you could be watching and they're like P2 could be inside and he's not bumping, or like like they can enter inside the bot, like inside this guy's ghost and not get bumped, right? And you're like, what the fuck? What's happening? How did he go inside? That's crazy. And then he's like up here and he like bumps and it's like, what the fuck? But so yeah, I think it might be like that, right? It might be dependent on the spectator, which is a little bit annoying. So I guess I'm gonna say like mathematically you shouldn't need that much space. You shouldn't need that much time, but I want to give like at least 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah, and then limits fit route length. Yeah, so that's like that's several gimmick, right? Hopefully I went in depth enough. This video thing is really enormous. Holy shit! I'm gonna make it a playlist, honestly. And then the second one is if you know Boingburg, you know there's a lot of gimmicks on that track. I'm gonna do a kind of pawn skip kind of thing. So the problem with pawn skip is that it's ping based, right? The problem with pawn skip, if you didn't know, pawn skip is a skip in Boingburg near the end of the track. It's like a little pool of water, and what you would essentially do is you would have a straightaway, it's like a diagonal straightaway, right? And you have this well, like this like wall tap thing, right? And what you would do is you would come up in a boat and you would like bounce off. You would be given no gravity, and then you would go across the water. If you didn't do it fast enough, you would fall into the water right here, and then you'd have to like climb out this way and like back on the track. So the problem with this is that there's a command block that gives the boat no gravity. No gravity is the thing that, like it sounds, gives an entity no gravity, so it doesn't fall in the air. So you can just have like a flying boat. Like if this is the ground, you can just have a boat that's like this, right? And there's a little guy, and he's smiling, and his paddles, and yeah. So this is no gravity, right? He's above the ground. So like the water is, like if this is ice, water is like that. So the boat can be like above the water and not fall in, but then like once it loses no gravity, it would just fall in, and then you'd have to paddle your way out, because like ice is like this tall or this tall, and you can't like go over this gap. So that's the idea behind pawn skip. But yeah, like I said, it's depends on the command block that gives the boat no gravity, and this means that it's ping related, right? So like how it would essentially work is that there's this area that if you went into it, it would give the boat no gravity, and when you left the area, it would count down a timer, and once that timer runs out, you would lose no gravity. So essentially what would happen is that someone would enter here, and then like they'd leave, but then like the server recognizes it by this point and starts counting down the timer here. Compared to someone who has better ping, they go in, they hit the wall, they go, and then like the timer starts here, right? So then they have that much less time to get across, and that's the problem with pawn skip. It's ping related. So that begs the question: what is a shortcut? Or the whole point is that you make it across in time, right? There's a timer, and if you don't make it across in time, then it sucks that you fall in, right? And generally how you do this is you carry as much speed as possible into this wall tap, and then you still have a lot of speed to get across the water. So the main thing is you have to have enough speed, and you have to have the right angle. So how can you replicate that without ping? So there's this one phenomenon in ice boating that we haven't really abused that much, and that's called wall priority, right? Wall priority essentially means that you can have a boat, let's just say that you have a boat going on diagonal, right? And like, so that's a block, and like that's a, so yeah, so like you have a boat, right? You have a boat, it's going this way, right? You would think that the corner would like hit this block and like it'd bounce this way, right? The boat would. But if you're going fast enough, you can just like go through the fucking block and like be totally fine and keep going. But sometimes, if like sometimes, so this is what we call negative priority, where you go through the block, right? I have a video on my channel called like oh no, and like it's just it's an early example of realizing what wall priority is, because I legit like I put it in slow motion. I go through the block, like one frame I'm like here, and the other frame like you're here, and like I go through the block, right? And that's just crazy, right? So yeah, this is negative wall priority. Positive wall priority is like if the block is over here, right, and you're going super fast this way. So like if I so like yeah, like the boat moves, and like you're like over here, the block is over here, but you still hit the wall, you end up going this way. even though you're nowhere near it. This is your hitbox. You're nowhere near this block, and yet you still hit it. That's positive wall priority. That's like kind of the opposite of negative wall priority, where you go through blocks. This one's like the wall is further out. So essentially what we're going to want to do, and this depends on speed. If you're going slow, it functions like normal. But if you're going fast, then you'd hit that negative wall priority block, or you'd hit that positive wall priority block like this, right? If you're going slow, you won't hit this corner. But if you're going fast, you will hit the corner. So it's dependent on speed, right? So I was like, okay, so let's just do, let's make it so that they have to go across. You see, this is, like, you see the grid in the background. So that's like Minecraft, like, north, south, east, west, right? So so this is a 45-degree angle on the axis. This is like a straightaway, like most tracks have like a straightaway that goes on like the north, south, east, west axis, right? So yeah, let's say that we have they're coming in on a straightaway with a lot of speed, right? And then we have a turn, a big turn, and then we have a little thing. We can maybe do a wall tap, right? So they wall tap, they lose all their momentum this way, and then they have only their momentum this way. So then we have a little gap right here, and then they have to go across. And right here, you can see on the 45s, there are blocks, right? And like it's only really possible to get across if they have enough speed and they have negative wall priority, right? So if they're going too slow, then the walls function like normal, and they will bump them off, right? So like you make it essentially impossible unless you have a lot of speed. Yeah, and this is a little bit scary because we haven't fully learned about wall priority. We don't know if it's dependent on FPS, like if your computer's worse and you have worse FPS, or whatever, then like do you have more impactful wall priority, right? Or like, etc. We haven't like really learned about the ins and outs of wall priority, so this is a little bit dangerous, but it's still better than ping related, right? Because like people just, if you have a race on Wingberg, it's just like depending on where you are, you have that much more of an advantage, right? Which should be fair in iceboat racing. If you have worse ping, generally it's worse because you get particle lag back more, or like when you go inside a lightning rod, another person's lightning rod, you freeze for more time, etc. So it kind of actually does balance the playing field. Because I feel like worse ping does better on Boingburg pond skip, but worse ping also does worse in boat racing, so it kind of actually balances it out. But I still want to avoid ping differences if possible, right? So then, yeah, and then like we go like this. Yeah, and you may notice that this kind of looks like the turn that comes after the split routes in Cyber World 2 and Cyber World 1, and that's kind of like what I was thinking. I was kind of thinking like we can do like this is the straightaway, and then like slow route, and then like fast route, like splits. Oh yeah. Right, so like this is the Cyber World gimmick, and then immediately because you're gonna want to have a lot of speed for this fast route, so we're gonna probably want to have a good amount of like a good size straightaway. So we're gonna like if there's a place because we're gonna need a lot of speed for this wall tap for the wall priority to like be a thing. So like why not just put it right after the gimmick? Because like otherwise we're gonna have to make a large straightaway, right? Which 2 large straightaways does not sound that great. Yeah, and then so that's kind of like a basic game plan, and then we'll do whatever to make it a 60 seconds lap time. Yeah, so like if everything I've drawn in back takes like 35 seconds, then this has to be 25 seconds, and then we have a 1 minute lap time. I think to start with, generally how I start with is I make the gimmicks first, and then I make the rest of the track around it. For instance, if I have like a lot of high-speed corners in this section, and I really want to make it a diverse, like if I have a lot of high-speed corners in like this section, and I want to make it diverse, I can have a lot of those speed turns here. But that's only if I want to keep it diverse. And I'm not entirely sure if those speed sections are good. But yeah, so that's kind of the general game plan. We have the Cyberworld gimmick right here, and we have the pawn skip-esque thing right here. It doesn't matter how we do this, just the general principle of fast shortcut, difficult as shit, and depends on speed. So like we don't have to have a wall tap. If it's easier to make it so that you don't have like if it's easier to not do a wall tap for track making, then we shouldn't do a wall tap, right? Like if it's easier to like instead have a thing that's like, you know, like you just drive into it, right? And then like this. If this is easier than doing like a wall tap into it, that's fine. Then we'll just like make them drive into it, and we won't give them a wall. But yeah, it might really require a wall, right? Because wall taps are really powerful. And then there also brings up the question: how difficult do we want the normal turn to be, right? Because we want this to be difficult, but how difficult do we want this to be? Yeah, and that comes like, do we want? Because like we could just make it like really easy, really easy turn, like even just like give them wall taps like right here or something, right? So that it's like playing it safe is like really playing it safe, because like, you know, okay, I don't want to go for shortcut, it says P1, right? P1 says I don't want to go for shortcut, so I'm gonna just take the normal route and play it safe. But if the normal route is also super apeshit difficult, then like what's the point, right? Then you may as well just go for the shortcut, unless messing up on the turn is actually like gives a lot less punish than messing up here. And then for here, the punish is likely going to be like, there's probably going to be like water in here, and then you have to like drive out, and then there should be like a thing here or something like that, right? Like, yeah. It's just gonna be like a tightrope kind of thing, right? Like they're gonna have like hardly any space to get through. In fact, they're probably gonna have to like, you know, negative wall priority to wear through, so it's gonna be very thin. So yeah, there's gonna be like, we can't have the road like you can't say, oh yeah, this is packed ice. Like if they bump, then they lose time. They go over here, right? Because then they can just drive on the packed ice, right? So like we had to have like a pit or something, right? Something that they could like, they'd have to go into and they can't get back on, or they can't like use it as a route. Yeah. And so we also can't just make this whole thing water, because then if we do keep this shape of the turn, then they can just, people going the normal route can just like plop in the water and just go out, right? Actually, isn't there yeah, I can do this. Yo, that's cool. Neat. Yeah, so yeah, this is the general plan. Turn 1, Cyberworld tracks have had turn, like, this is the straightaway, right? Turn 1 has typically been this like weird like thing, so that you'd have to like thread the needle, which is cool for time traveling, but like for race starts, this is the zone of death, and it's just suffering if you're not the front row. So I'm thinking probably maybe just like do a 90-degree turn or something, or maybe even just like a 45-degree turn. So I'm gonna want them to be on a 45-degree turn going into the split route, probably, unless I learn that that's not good. And this also has to be on diagonal. I'm probably gonna do what I did in Cyberworld 2, where I have like a tightrope kind of thing. Right, so they have to cross the tightrope. So this is where the bumping occurs, right? Probably gonna do something like that again. Probably gonna make it around the same width as Cyberworld 2's, just because I think it was alright. I'm looking at like, I was watching a little bit of my POV, and I thought it was a good width. Maybe a block wider. I don't know. We'll come to that when we get to it. But yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of the game plan. I'm gonna probably start, because the efficiency of this depends on how much entry speed you have into the wall tap, and that depends on the straightaway, which depends on the gimmick, right? Uh-oh. Whoa. What the fuck? Uh-oh. Yeah, okay, that's cool. My controls just stopped working. That's awesome. I have to relaunch. Hello. Oh. Yeah, so that's kind of the plan. So yeah, we'll probably start with building first. generally in the past, what I would do is I wouldn't even like draw anything out. I would just like start making it in Minecraft. But yeah, I'm starting to learn that like using a iPad thing or a Surface Pro to like draw things out and have a game plan first is pretty freaking nice. So yeah, it's not gonna probably look like this. Like the slow route isn't gonna be like an S thing. It's not gonna be like this for the fast route. But it's just kind of like a visualization of like kind of like what's gonna happen. So yeah, I guess we can get started in Minecraft and start building. Yeah, I'm gonna start with the split routes, and then I'm going to do. God, oh no, did I do it again? Oh, I did it again. God damn it! Now I'm gonna do this, and then is it pain, and then I can make the rest of the track, including turn 1. Other notes: pit delta is probably not gonna be. I'm not gonna want it to be too big. What the fuck? Not too big of a pit delta. Around 25 to 35 seconds would be cool. Just for simple maths. Yeah. All right. What the fuck is this circle do? I don't understand. Yeah. Okay. That's gonna do it.